Good morning, students, and welcome to today's math lesson. This is lesson 2 in our final unit on math this year, and it is called Statistical Questions. So for this lesson today, again, you're going to need your lined piece of paper or a spiral notebook. You're going to need one highlighter, any color of your choosing. Maybe I'll go with yellow today. I'm in the yellow mood. And something to write with. So have those materials ready and we're going to start the lesson. Now again, now that you don't have your notes, you're going to be putting your notes on your lined piece of paper. If I start to go too fast, just pause the video, catch yourself up, and continue with me on today's lesson. Okay, so let's get started. So as you can see, I already kind of got my paper ready to go. So if you can copy the same, we are in Unit 8. This is lesson 2, and again, it's called Statistical Questions. Okay, so write that on your paper, and while you're doing that, I'm going to start getting my notes so I know what to teach you today. There's going to be 2 key terms in today's lesson, okay? The first one is a word you're going to hear us use a lot today, and the word is variability. So let's go ahead and just get that on our paper now. Variability. That is a key word because, you'll find out in the lesson shortly, in order for a question to be a statistical question, it must have variability. Okay, and let's go ahead and define what that means. Variability happens when not every data value is the same. And this will make sense once we do today's first unit, first part together, okay? So when you have a question and you have a bunch of answers, if you have variability, it means all your answers are going to be different, okay? So they're not going to be the same. So let's go ahead and get started on today's lesson. And actually, let me go ahead and highlight that because that is a very key part of today's lesson. Now, I know you don't have the notes, but that's the student worksheet in front of you, but that's okay. So we're going to be looking at this piece of data, okay? It's called What's in the Data. And we're going to use this to kind of get ourselves started. Basically, this is a table, and it said that we have 10. Okay, so there were 10 6th grade students, hey, just like you guys, at school, and they were each asked 5 survey questions, kind of similar to the questions you guys had to answer on Monday. You had 12, these students only had 5. Here are their answers. So here's our 5 questions. We don't know what questions they asked yet, but here's their different questions. So let's say I could say, just so you guys understand the table, this would be like maybe question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4, question 5. And these would probably all, maybe we could say this 10 students, student 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And again, you don't have to copy this down. We're just going to look at it, okay? It's going to be a lot of you guys watching and looking. And obviously, here's how student 1 answered the question, student 2, student 3, and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at our line paper. Let's skip a line from variability, and this is actually going to be 2.2. Right? There we go. Perfect. So let's say that maybe one of the questions, we don't know which one, we have to figure this out. One of the questions was, if you flip a coin 10 times, how many heads did you get? That was one of the questions. We've got to go back now and figure out which data set matches that question. So let's go ahead and put, this is question Q1, and it had to do with coin flip. So coin flip. All right. So if we have a coin flip, it only has 2 sides. Would everyone agree with that way? It's got a heads and it's got a tails. So please write this down. you're flipping, there's only really 2 possible answers you could get, okay, and you're flipping it 10 times. So if we look up here at the data set, let's see if we can possibly find the one that would make most sense with that coin. Well, the first data set has some zeros in it. Well, there's no way you can flip a coin and get a 0 if it's a yes or no question. Okay, so we're definitely not data set A. Data set B is all the same number, and the number is 12. Well, it can't be D because we only flip it 10 times. So there's no way you'd have 12, and I think it would be impossible if it was the same side of the coin every single flip. So we can kind of get rid of B. C has some 5, 7, 6, 3s, 4s. Okay, this is looking promising. I don't see anything over 10. I don't see any zeros. It might be C. Look at D. Again, another set of all the same number. No way it can be D. There's no variabilities in our answers. It's all the same. E looks good, but then I see an 11 and I see a 16. And again, we're only flipping it 10 times. So using our just conversations in the process of elimination, I think we can say the coin flip question will probably be data set C. Okay? And that's kind of what we're going to do here, just as a little warm up. Let's go on to question number 2. We'll just do a couple of these. Question number 2, which I know you can't see it, but I'm going to read it to you, is how many books did you read in the last year? So now we're talking of books read, and it's in a whole year, right? Well, we already got rid of C, so I know it can't be C, so I can just cross C out. So now we're left with A, B, C, and D. Guys, look at this and see if you can maybe figure this out, okay? Books read in a year. Could it be data set 1? Okay, well, it might be. Goodness sakes, I hope not, though, because we have a lot of students that didn't read a single book, so I doubt that. We have AR at our school, so that's not going to work. B, I don't think every student read exactly 12 books. That would kind of be ridiculous. 4, data set D, again, don't think everyone would have read 6 books. And last but not least, data set E, maybe it's E. I see a 3, an 11, 16 for those top readers, 3 and 2s for the students that don't like to read books. I'm going to go ahead and say that this would be data set E. And we'll do one more, guys, together. One more. Question 3. Question 3 here talks about, oh, here's an easy one. What grade are you in? So grade. Well, if we remember our question, it said that there were 10 6th grade students. So we know that the kids are in 6th grade. We already used data set C. We just use E. Obviously, look at these choices here. Hopefully you guys all just realize it's definitely got to be data set D, with all 6s. So data set D. Okay, so that's just working with data and trying to figure out what data would go with what question. All right, and again, the reason, if you look at these guys, if I had to ask you which of these questions was a statistical question, that's where the data is going to vary. So if we look at questions 1, 2, and 3, the first one had to do with a heads or tail flip. And we said it was data set C. And this does have variability. So this would be a statistical question. You've got some 6s, a 5, a 7, a 4, a 5, a 3, a 4, 6, and 8. They are different values. So the coin flip question would be a statistical question. Question 2, books read in a year. We said that was data set E. Again, I see all different answers. 3, 7, 9, 11, 6, 4. This would be a statistical question, books read in a year, because your answers vary. Now the last question, question 3, was what grade are you in? We said it was data set D. Data set D had all 6s. This would be an example of not a statistical question because all of the answers are the same. Okay, so keep that in mind, okay, because today's lesson is all about, is it a statistical question or is it not a statistical question? Which brings us to our next part, 2.3. So let's kind of go down a little bit and let's do 2.3. 2.3 is going to get into what makes a question a statistical question. So before we even start, let's define statistical question. And let's define it. So it's this, can't say that. Try and say that 3 times fast. This statistical question. Okay, let's go ahead and define that. It has to have a couple different characteristics. So, this is a question. Must have the following traits. Dot, dot. Okay, so here's what the question has to have to make it a statistical. Okay, bullet point number 1. It's going to be a group. So it's got to be a group, meaning it can't be just one thing. You've got to have a group of things like books over the year, heads or tails flip, groups of things. A group that you are comparing. So you're comparing, you're analyzing groups. Another characteristic or trait, you have to have some work. So you're going to have, some work's going to be needed to answer the question. Some work is needed to answer the question. Maybe you have to take a survey. Maybe you're going to have to talk to a lot of different people. It's going to require some time and work. If you can get the answer in a second, it's probably not a statistical question. Third bullet point, and the last bullet point. You must have to gather and study the data. Before you can answer the question. So again, you have to put some work into it. You're going to have to gather the data, whether it's a survey or you're observing, and you're going to then have to study the data and maybe put it into a table or a chart. So that's very important that you guys understand the characteristics needed for a question to be statistical, because that's what this whole lesson is about. All right? So let's say, I know you don't have a worksheet in front of you, but let's just look at a couple and see if we can think to ourselves, is this statistical? Is it not statistical? Actually, it tells us. Let's just take a peek here. Okay, so I'm going to zoom up a little bit here. So these 3 questions are statistical. Let's just walk through them and make sure you guys understand why are these and then these 3 are not. So what makes these 3 statistical? What makes these 3 not statistical? This says, what is the most common color of the cars in a school parking lot? Okay, well the reason why this is statistical is it's cars. So again, you're more than one. Okay, that fits our, you have to have a group of stuff you're comparing, so all the cars, all the different colors. There's lots of different colors of cars. So therefore, that's a statistical question. Next question, what percentage of students in the school have a cell phone? Okay, what makes this statistical is it's all the students in the whole school, so you have a lot of data to gather. Definitely going to take you a lot of work. Maybe you're going to have to go around and survey every single student. Maybe create some kind of a Google document, email to the students. That's why this is statistical. Next question, what kind of literature, fiction or nonfiction, is more popular among students in school? Again, hopefully in your mind you're thinking, yeah, I can see how that would be statistical. You're comparing fiction and nonfiction, and it's all the students, again, in a whole school. Lots of gathering of information. Okay, you have a group. Okay, you have a group of students. You're looking for fiction, nonfiction. You're definitely going to have to do some work to get this information, and you're going to have to gather and study the data. Now let's look at the 3 examples of questions that are not statistical. What color is the principal's car? Okay, well this is one answer. What color is Mrs. Scott's car? I don't even know actually. But there's no gathering of data because it's just a one answer. 2, does Elena have a cell phone? Again, that's another one answer. It's one person, one phone. It's a yes or no question. If it's a yes or no question, it will never be a statistical question. What kind of literature, fiction or nonfiction, does Diego prefer? Again, you got one answer. It's one student. It's either going to be fiction or nonfiction. There's no data to gather. So therefore, all 3 of these are great examples of what is not a statistical question. Okay? Last thing I want to do with you guys before I turn you loose is go through a couple of choices of questions and see how you can do on your own here. So let's look at these with me together. Let's look at these with me together. How many cups of water do my classmates drink each day? Think about that. Okay? Is there any variability where we're talking about cups of water and we're talking about all the classmates? Okay? So again, I've got a group, I've got classmates, and I'm going to have to do some work. All right? I'm going to have to do a survey or talk to each student. So yes, there's variability, and yes, it's a statistical question. Okay? Now let's go back to your paper. I'm running out of room, so I'm going to turn my page, and let's have you guys answer these with me. So again, we're on 2.3, okay, and I'm going to give you a question. The next question is going to be question 2, and you're going to tell me, is there variability? You're going to say yes or no. So is there variability? And you're going to simply write yes or no. And then, is it a statistical question? I'm just going to put statistical Q for question. So this is going to be either yes or no as your choices, and this is a yes or no. Remember, variability is when you can have different data outputs, different data variables based on what you're trying to find out what your question is. So the next question is, listen closely, where in town, okay, does our math teacher live? Where in town does our math teacher live? Is this a variable data, and is it a statistical question? Okay, give yourself a second, write the answer down. Hopefully you wrote no, there's no variability because it's one teacher and it's one location. You only have one answer. Okay, Mrs. Berg, I happen to live in Scottsdale, Arizona. So there's no variability, which means it is no, not a statistical question. Okay, question 3. Pull it out here for us. How many minutes does it take students in my class to get ready for school in the morning? Is variability expected in the data? Is it a question statistical? So again, how many minutes does it take students in my class to get ready for school in the morning? Okay, well, we're talking students, so we have lots of data to gather. We're talking minutes to get ready. Well, it might take one student 10 minutes. It might take another student 30 minutes. So there's going to be, yes, you're going to have variability. So the answer is yes. And if you have variability, then yes, it will always be a statistical question. Try another one together. This is very similar to what your homework's going to be like. So hopefully you guys are paying attention. Question 4. How many minutes of recess do 6th grade students have each day? So is there variability in this answer? And is the question statistical? So again, the question, how many minutes of recess do 6th grade students have each day? We're talking one group of students, 6th graders, and we're talking their recess, okay, each day. Think back to when we were at school. Okay, write your answers. Is there variability in the answer we're going to get from this question? Meaning, are all the answers going to be the same or different? Hopefully you guys said no. There's no variability. Recess time doesn't change. You guys get 20 minutes every single day during the school day, unless it's an early release day, and it's just for 6th graders. So there's no variability. The answer to the question regarding what 6th grader you ask is going to be the same, 20 minutes. So then it's not a statistical question. Last question, question 5. I love this question. Do all students in my class know what month it is? What month it is? Now this is a yes or no question, so think about that. Okay, they're talking about students and they're asking them what month it is. Now I want you guys to pretend that this is a group of 6th graders. Okay, that's gonna really help you answer this question. So, are their answers going to vary? All right. Okay, is there variability? Are the 6th graders gonna all have different answers, yes or no? That gives you the answer to this. Whatever this is becomes this. So write your answers down. Hopefully you wrote no. I would hope that every single 6th grader would know what the month is. So there's going to be no variability, which means no, it's not a statistical question. Okay, so that's what today's lesson is. That is the whole lesson. For your homework, okay, your homework is going to be a Google form. Google form, okay? It's in this lesson. You're going to answer the Google form questions and submit it for accuracy. You can use your notes, so use notes. Think about everything we just talked about, okay, in our lesson, okay? Basically, you're going to have questions like this where it gives you a question, and then it's going to ask you, is the question statistical or not? And you simply have to do yes or no, and it's a series of questions like that. And then once you hit the submit button, it'll generate your answer, okay? So good luck with today's lesson. And there's one Khan Academy. So you have a Google form, and then you have one Khan Academy. Please make sure you guys are doing your cons. I would really appreciate it, and you're getting that 70% or greater. All right. I will come at you tomorrow with another lesson. Have an awesome day, guys.